Okay, this is my revised video on oil pressure switches checking. On this vehicle, it's an ABA 2-liter engine. There's two switches, a low pressure switch on the cylinder head and a high pressure switch down by the oil filter flange. Both of them have a little rubber boot that protects the connector. You just peel back the rubber boot. If the connector pops off, just push the boot back over the wire, and then reconnect the wire to the switch. Should maybe get my little flashlight. As always, lighting is bad. Okay, so this might work better now. So whenever you have a test light, you want to make sure that your test light actually works. Attach it battery negative, battery positive, test light lights up. Now the way the circuit works, the wires feed 12 volts to the switches, and then the switches is what causes them to ground out. So right now, with the engine off, touching the test light, again negative, it's connected to positive, so touching any ground will turn the light on. So with the engine off, the low pressure switch is supposed to ground out, and which turns on the light, which it does. The high pressure switch does not ground out when the engine is off. So you can see I'm touching it to the connector, the light is off. So what happens when you start the engine, this one, the light is supposed to go off. And depending on how warm the engine is, if the oil is nice and thick, high pressure, this light will be on, or the light will be on at the high pressure switch. To make it easier as well, you can just take the clamp, put it on the metal connector of the pressure switch, and then just stick the test light against the connector. We're just going to start the car, and again, this is the low pressure one, so the light should go off. You saw the light go off while I was cranking, so right away pressure started to build and the light went off. Low pressure switch is only about 4 to 7 psi, so it doesn't take much for the pressure switch to open, which causes the light to go off. High pressure switch right now, you can see the light is on, meaning that the switch is grounding, which is good. The high pressure switch is the one that causes the buzzer inside the dash to come on at 2000 RPM if that switch does not ground out. So I'm just going to let it warm up until the fan comes on. By that time the oil is thin. Thinner oil will create less pressure at a certain RPM or a specific RPM compared to thicker oil. And then we're going to watch the tachometer and the light, and you'll see that once the engine's warm at idle, the light will be off, which is normal, but once you rev it up at 2000 RPM, the light should come on. So we're just going to let it run for a while and see what happens. At idle right now, you can see the light is barely flickering. So if at first this switch, when you have it connected with your test light, does not turn the light on, even when the engine is cold, don't panic. It still could be that you do have pressure. It just means that it's not enough pressure to turn the light on, or the switch to ground the switch. So with the light off right now, you want to just rev it up a little bit and see if the light comes on, which it does. And again, the key is that the light comes on, meaning the switch grounds before 2000 RPM. If that does not ground before 2000 RPM or while it's at 2000 RPM, the oil warning light and buzzer in the dash will come on. So I'm just going to quickly demonstrate that. I'm just going to disconnect this switch here, just pull it off, and I'm going to make sure it's not touching ground. You can even leave the light here connected. It's not going to do anything. That wire is positive, this is positive. That's why that light's not coming on, even if I rev it up. So this switch is disconnected. I'm just gonna rev it up now to about 2,000 RPM, and you should see the oil warning light coming on. Let me close the door so you can also hear the buzzer. Okay, it took a little bit more than 2,000 RPM, but I think that's just the gauge itself not being as accurate at where it says 2,000. If I let it idle, the oil buzzer and oil light will still remain on until the key is cycled off and back on. Oil light and buzzer is off. If I rev it up again, warning buzzer is on. If the warning light and buzzer are on your vehicle, what you do is you take a jumper wire, disconnect the switch, disconnect the wire from the switch, take a jumper wire and attach it to battery negative or any engine ground, any clean metal part of the engine. You can even have a second person just take this wire and hold it against the distributor like this, okay, with your bare hand. It's not gonna, you're not gonna shock anybody or yourself. Nothing's gonna happen. So with this wire connected to ground, you now start the engine and rev it up past 2,000 RPM. The oil warning light and buzzer should stay off. I can go all the way to 3,000, 4,000. Oil warning light stays off and the buzzer stays off. If that's the case, the warning system is working correctly. If you're still getting the warning happening, the wire to the instrument cluster is broken, or the fault is with the instrument cluster itself. Further diagnosing obviously will need to be taken care of then at that point. Okay, so that covers the high pressure switch. High pressure switch activates the light, the oil light, and the buzzer. The low pressure switch does not activate the buzzer. The oil pressure switch on the head, the low pressure switch, all it does is turns on the light at idle. What happens is when you, like I was saying, this switch closes the circuit to ground when there is oil pressure. Sorry. The low pressure switch opens the circuit so that the light cannot ground as soon as the engine is running. So what happens is when the engine's running and you disconnect this switch, nothing happens because that's the way it's supposed to be designed. If you do connect it to ground, the light will be on with the key on, as it should be. And when you start it, the light will flash right away as well. Okay, but again, there's no buzzer light. There's no buzzing. Just the light blinking. 2,000 RPM, 3,000 RPM, no buzzer. So if your oil light is blinking, no buzzer, check the switch on the cylinder head. As with any type of oil warning system or oil pressure warning system or warning that you're getting in the dash, these electrical tests can be the first simple things to do, but the only way to know if there's really is oil pressure or not is to use a pressure gauge. Okay, you just thread the pressure switch out, be it the low pressure switch or the high pressure switch, the same fittings, attach a mechanical hose like this with a mechanical gauge, and then view the pressure. A cold engine will have high pressure because of the cold, thick oil. As the engine warms up, the oil thins out, pressure drops. At idle, you're going to have probably 10 to 15 psi On some cases it might be less than 10 psi. Again, that's normal at idle. As long as at 2000 RPM you have a minimum of 29 psi. Okay, so then all you do is you rev it up, wait until the engine's nice and warm. That way you're taking the thick oil out of the equation. Rev it up by hand to about 2000 RPM. You can have somebody else sit in the car to tell you when you're at 2000, or have them hold it at 2000 RPM while you watch the gauge. If you have a long enough hose, you just route it around the fender to the dash here. That way you can do this all by yourself. Okay, odds are pressure is okay if the engine is quiet. Whenever there's oil lifter problems or oil pressure problems with the lifters, the hydraulic lifters, they'll start to rattle. It'll sound like a diesel. So if you ever hear that, a noisy engine with the oil light blinking in the dash, shut the car off. In all likelihood, there is an oil pressure problem. At minimum, check your oil level. If the oil level is low, top it up. The oil light coming on doesn't always mean that it's low on oil. I get a lot of people, they just put in oil without checking the dipstick, thinking that more oil is going to solve it. That's not the case. Overfilling the oil can cause other damage, catalytic converter. You can actually even hydraulic stuff if there's way too much oil in there. Hydrolock, not hydraulic. Same thing, I guess, almost. So yeah, start with the wiring check first. Test light, simple, easy, quick check. Then if there's still a problem, check your pressure physically with the mechanical gauge. If you accidentally swap the sensors, that can obviously cause problems as well. This switch is designed to ground, this one is designed to open. So if you put this switch down here and this one up on top, the warning light's going to come on when it's not supposed to. The buzzer is going to come on because that switch, again, this one here, is going to be opening, whereas it's supposed to be grounding when it's down here. So don't make things more difficult by just replacing switches blindly. Replace one at a time so that you don't get them mixed up. When you take them off, there are pressure ratings on the back of them. Now, you won't be able to see it on camera, but there are pressure ratings on these switches. This one here says 0.15 to 0.35 bar, and this one is 1.5 to 2 bar, sorry, 1.6 to 2 bar. So this is the high pressure switch, this is the low pressure switch. They're color coded as well, so you can't really get them wrong. It's a simple system. Have a service manual, it explains everything. Have a service manual by your side here. That way you can read up on what the circuit is, what it does, how it works. But that's pretty much it. Hope this was a little bit more detailed than my prior video. Thanks for watching.